Well, this movie was certainly better late than never. It's Smurfs: The Lost Village. This is now the third time that Sony Pictures Animation has attempted to make a Smurfs movie, and if you know their history, then you'll know that the first two Smurfs movies were terrible. They had terrible writing, terrible acting, and the Smurfs themselves just looked but this movie had a lot of potential because it was actually returning to the classic formula that Smurfs was so well at doing back when it first came out, and a lot of people were really excited for this movie. And as soon as this movie starts, you can clearly tell that some real effort went into this. Sony Pictures Animation got some very talented people to work on this movie to make it very close to the original source material, and it pays off. The Smurfs look amazing, the animation is beautiful, and it has adventure and magic and fantasy. This is what the Smurfs were well known for doing, and it's great to see them the stars of their own movie, instead of this crap. The premise of this movie is actually pretty simple. It takes place in Smurfs Village where everything is cheerful and happy, and the Smurfs are just being their usual self. But one day they discover this mysterious lost village and decide to unravel the secrets while also avoiding the traps and tricks of the evil Gargamel. So first off, I will say this movie looks beautiful. The character animation, the design of the Smurfs, the colors, the worlds that they go through. God, this movie looks beautiful. This is probably the best animation that Sony Pictures Animation has done in a very long time. The characters are also incredibly likable in this movie. They got some really talented actors to play the voices of these characters, and they do a really good job. The characters maintain their personalities that they were so well at doing, and they have a lot of cheery and fun moments, and of course Gargamel is always great. And this movie was actually funny. There were a lot of moments where I was either laughing or just smiling because this movie has a very good charm to itself. This movie seems like it's gonna be great, but there's one problem that I have that most people have constantly been talking about this movie when it comes to issues, and that's the story. And I can't blame them because the story's... it's not that good. Well, okay, the premise itself is actually pretty good, and the way it's set up is solid enough. It's more about Smurfette feeling left out, not just because she's the only female Smurf, which is why when they find the village of girl Smurfs, and by the way, that's not a spoiler because the trailers literally gave that away, she does fit in more because the girls can literally do whatever they want and they don't have to stick to one personality unlike the male Smurfs. The premise itself is good. I think it's interesting for the most part, but there are problems that I have with it. First off, aside from Smurfette, not many of the other Smurfs have any real character arcs. I mean, Clumsy, Hefty, and Brainy Smurf join her on this quest, but what do they really do in the movie? I mean, in Clumsy's case, he's trying to find something that he's good at, but what do Brainy and Hefty have to do here? They don't really serve much to the story, and don't get me wrong, they're fun characters, and they do get a laugh every once in a while, but they don't really do anything to contribute to the story, and they're just kinda there just because they want to support Smurfette. Oh sure, they do have a fight sequence, but that only happens for about 2 seconds, and later they kinda pretend that it never happened. The story itself is kinda predictable at points, and then comes the ending, which is just awful. You know that ending where everything seems to be sad and a character dies, and then all of a sudden at the last second they come back and everything is cheerful and it's not really explained how it happened? Yeah, that's kind of what happens in this movie, and they don't do anything new with it. It's the same kind of ending I've seen so many times in other movies, and it just doesn't work that well here. So yes, there are problems that I do have with this movie, but for the most part, I just love the effort and how gorgeous it looks and how the characters are written. For the most part, I think it's just a good movie. It's not amazing, but hey, calling it good compared to the first two Smurfs movies, that's like calling this movie a masterpiece. There's no hurry to see this movie, but if you're a Smurfs fan, I'm sure you're going to love it.